Have you ever been in a situation where you knew you had something important to say, but you were too afraid to speak? I have. And honestly, I still remember that day, as if it happened yesterday. It was just an ordinary morning. I walked into a room, sat quietly in my usual place, and thought everything would be normal. But within a few minutes, I was given a choice. Stay silent and remain comfortable, or speak up and face my fear. I had no idea that one sentence would completely change the way I saw myself. So let me take you back to that day. It was a Monday morning and I was attending an important meeting. I was sitting at the back of the room, listening carefully while everyone discussed a new project. There were several experienced people in the room, and I felt a little nervous. Suddenly, the manager asked, "Does anyone have a better idea?" The room became completely silent. Everyone looked at each other. I actually had an idea. In fact, I had been thinking about it for several days. But there was one problem. I was scared to speak. I started thinking, what if my idea is stupid? What if everyone laughs at me? What if I make a mistake? I looked down at my notebook and pretended to be busy. Laughs softly. Yes, that was my favorite strategy at the time. Look busy and hope nobody notices you. But then something happened. The manager asked the question again. Does anyone have an idea? I took a deep breath. My heart was beating faster. For a few seconds, I was fighting a battle inside my own mind. One voice said, "Stay quiet." Another voice said, "Just speak." And finally, I raised my hand. The room became quiet again. The manager looked at me and said, "Yes, go ahead." For a moment, I completely forgot what I wanted to say. Laughs. I looked at everyone and thought, why did I raise my hand? But it was too late. Everyone was waiting. So I took another deep breath and said, "I have an idea. It may not be perfect, but I think it could help us." And that was it. Just one sentence. But for me, it was a huge moment. I explained my idea as clearly as I could. I made a few small mistakes. I even repeated myself once or twice. But I didn't stop. When I finished, there was a short silence. Honestly, that silence felt like 5 minutes. Then the manager smiled and said, "That's actually a very good idea." I couldn't believe it. He asked me a few questions, and I answered them. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about whether people would judge me. I was simply focused on communicating my idea. After the meeting, one of my colleagues came to me and said, "I never knew you had ideas like that. You should speak more often." That sentence stayed in my mind. On my way home that day, I kept thinking about what had happened. I realized something very important. My biggest problem was never a lack of ideas. My biggest problem was fear. I was afraid of making mistakes. I was afraid of what people would think. I was afraid of being judged. But the truth is, if you always wait until you feel completely confident, you may never speak at all. Confidence doesn't always come before you take action. Sometimes confidence comes because you take action. That day I learned that I didn't need to speak perfect English. I didn't need perfect grammar. I didn't need to have the perfect words. I simply needed the courage to speak. And from that day on, I started challenging myself. Whenever I had something to say, I tried to say it. Whenever I made a mistake, I tried to learn from it instead of feeling embarrassed. And slowly, something changed. I became more comfortable. I became more confident. And most importantly, I stopped being afraid of my own voice. So, if you're learning English and you're afraid of speaking, remember my story. Don't wait for perfect English. Don't wait for perfect grammar. Don't wait until you feel completely confident. Start with one sentence. Speak. Make mistakes. learn, and speak again. Because sometimes one brave sentence can change much more than you expect. For me, it was just one sentence in a meeting. But that one sentence taught me something I'll never forget. When you finally speak up, you don't just change the conversation, you can change the way you see yourself. And sometimes, that's where real confidence begins.